What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video. As you know, I'm no longer training for Chicago. Today, we're at a local 5K. Today, I want to see where my fitness is and get a general baseline to see where I can go for the Indianapolis Marathon. So with that said, let's jump into the race. Jumping straight into the race, we started out very fast. And if I remember right, it was something like a 5:45 or 5:35 pace. And I remember Trevor, right off the bat, after we came around this second turn through the parking lot, he goes, "Hey Ben, we gotta slow down. You're going too fast." And so I kind of just killed the speed a little bit and went down to about a 6:15, and that was the pace that I knew that I wanted to stay at. I didn't want to go any slower. If I went faster, that's great, but I didn't want to go any slower because a 6:15 is about a 19:30, 19:25 5K, and I also knew that going into this little section here on the driveway, it was going to be a pretty good uphill because I run that section all the time when I'm doing my warm-up for my track days. So like I mentioned in the beginning, I wanted to use this race as an indicator and a gauge as to where my fitness actually was and where it could actually get to within the next 8 to 10 or so weeks of training up until the Indianapolis Marathon. And so many times I've done like a tune-up race and I've forecasted just way too fast. I haven't planned in factors like I'm going to slow down because I'm going to get fatigued. I might not fuel as well as I want to. Weather might play a big factor. And all of that stuff is going to be dialed in for the race. I've been training really well, and the weather's going to be a little cooler than probably perfect, but that's okay. So yeah, I wanted to use this race as a predictor of how fit I am, because you can't go into a marathon with just hopes and dreams. You get to mile 20 with hopes and dreams, and then after that you can just absolutely explode. I wanted to use this race as a gauge to tell me, with certain tools and race predictors and stuff, which I'll get into in a minute, what to expect for race day. And then if I get to mile 20 to 22 and I feel pretty good, I'll push it to go even faster. But this race, this marathon, I really want to do well. I've absolutely bonked the last 3 races where I know I was in 3:15 or better shape. And so this one was like the cutoff point to make the decision whether I was going to try and go for sub 3 or try and go for something a little bit slower and actually run a really good marathon, and then maybe next spring try to go for that sub 3. So this section is uphill, and I run these streets all the time. I mean, it's essentially right down the road from my house. And so I knew it was going to be tough this first mile because it was uphill. And at about this point, we're maybe 3/4 of a mile into the race. Trevor started to fall off just a little bit, and but I was still feeling pretty good, as pretty good as you can in a 5K where you're going the absolute fastest that you have ever run. So yeah, again, Trevor's falling off here. I'm right there behind the guy on the Pacer bike. Big shout out to my brother for filming this entire thing. Finally got an electric bike and the GoPro figured out, so made it super easy for him to just follow me the whole entire time. So right about there at that white fence was the mile 1. There I go. I put off the number 1. And I clocked that mile at this pace on the screen. So at this point, I'm just trying to keep a steady pace. A lot of times people will go into a 5K, they'll go out first mile way too hot, then they'll kind of blow up second mile, and then third mile they kind of just try to hang on. And this one, I wanted to make sure my pacing strategy was right. It was just start out at a pace where I know I can hold all 3.1 miles.
Pizza sounds good. Sorry.
So at this point, I think Trevor is maybe 5 or so seconds behind, which in a 5K is a pretty good gap. I mean, we started off with a demanding lead, and the next guy, who is actually Jim Chaney, who is the race director. He was the race director for the Canton Hall of Fame Marathon. I think he was probably, 15 seconds, 20 seconds behind. I mean, it was just me and Trevor and I, and nobody else for a while. So one thing I wanted to talk about during this is the different race pace calculators that you can use. And one that I started using was called the VDOT calculator. And what you do is it's based on a bunch of research by Jack Daniels. And it takes a recent race and it takes those times and predicts them out or extrapolates them out to predict what your race time will be based on like how you might slow down and how the distance is, how racing like a half marathon isn't just doubling your time for a marathon. It's like doubling your time plus like 5% or something. And then it also has like altitude and temperature that can affect the pace. I wanted to use the time from this race to put into that calculator to see what my VDOT score was. And basically what the VDOT score is it's something to do with your VO2 max and then your race time. That's how you kind of use it to predict your paces or your finish time for whatever race you're doing. So right now I'm just coasting on a nice downhill through campus. We're going to turn left and go down and around by the library. This course was marked really well, and as you can see, I mean, again, there's nobody behind me. I'm going nice and quick, and this did not feel good. After about a mile, like it was pretty tough. In my mind, all I was thinking at around this point was just hold this pace. Just manage this pace. You can hold this pace till the end of the race. It was extremely hard, but I know that at mile 23 of the marathon, if I'm trying to hold a 6:52 pace or whatever my pace is going to be based on this race and whatever I like put into stone what the pace is going to be for my marathon, I'm going to have to push, and it's going to hurt. Because it's whenever you're trying to go, I mean, even for a marathon where you're just kind of going out and trying to finish, it's still going to hurt. But when you're trying to get faster and faster at it, it hurts a lot more. One thing I noticed is that I don't, even when I feel like I'm running fast, the camera shows that I don't have a really high leg kick. And that's something that I'd like to work on, I guess, maybe after this marathon, is increase my leg kick, because I know that that's something that a lot of faster runners have, is a high leg kick, and that helps with efficiency. And that means that you're running more efficiently. Another thing that I noticed too is I have a crossover gait. I think I've mentioned this in other videos, but basically my feet cross over, and it's because the way that I run, something with my upper body or maybe my hips or whatever, like it causes me to rotate across my midline. And if I can iron that out, then maybe I could go just a little bit faster, run more efficiently, and be able to not tire out as much as I run fast. Another thing that I wanted to make sure I did during this race was really think about form. A lot of times when I start to run fast and go for a hard effort, I like kind of swing my left arm really funky. And I know a lot of people do that as well. But I wanted to try and make sure to kind of just like be aware of that and not waste any energy, especially for like a marathon distance. That's a lot of wasted energy if you're like just kind of going like this the whole time, instead of just kind of keeping your arms like pinned to your side and going more up and down rather than side to side and dancing the whole time. So it was about right here, about 2.5 miles, where I was really hurting. And I mean, you can't see my face, but it was really rough. I mean, I knew that I had some downhill, but then I had to climb back up the high school driveway, which is coming up. And I knew that that was going to be a tough section. All I could think was just hold this pace, keep holding this pace. This is a good indicator of how it's going to feel late in the marathon when you're pushing it and running the fastest you've ever run in your life. It's going to hurt, but you can push for like another 3 minutes. I think this angle gives justice to how steep that hill is, and having that steep of a hill during the end of even a 5K, it's not nice. It's kind of brutal. But then I get this nice little downhill, and I knew the push through this section was going to be tough because it's at the end of the race, and I just want to be done, but I have this long straightaway to run. And at this point, I didn't know where I was against any other runner. And that's something that I don't care about. Like when I'm running, I'm not racing other people. I'm trying to race myself. And the goal of this race was to try and go under 19 minutes. And I don't quite hit that. The race course was actually a little short. I think it was 3.05 or something. So I ran an extra 1/10 of a mile to get that actual time to put into the predictor. But at this point, I kind of knew that I had it in the bag because I didn't really hear anybody behind me except my brother on the bike. But to my point, I don't ever look back anymore. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if somebody's going to pass me, they're going to pass me. Like, if I'm running at my absolute hardest, it doesn't matter if somebody's going to pass me or not. Like, there's not really anything extra that I'm giving if I know that I'm giving it all that I can. So right there, I just made a motion to empty the clip. It's like a little shotgun motion. And I came through the finish line, grabbed my medal, and I guess that was the first race that I officially won. And Trevor came through right behind me. I guess he had sped up a little bit and caught back up to me a little bit, but we took 1 and 2. Course was short, so I'm doing a little bit more. All right, that's officially 5K. So I want to plug this into the VDOT calculator and kind of figure out what we're going to be looking at for Indianapolis. So we're going to put 5K in as the distance, and the extra time that I ran made it out to be 19 minutes and 25 seconds. So that will calculate out the pace as 6:15 per mile. The other thing that you can do is you can put in temperature, which is one of the factors. If it's hotter, that's obviously going to affect your race performance. So if I remember right, it was about 67 degrees. If it were 50 degrees or 55 or something, I think the cutoff's like 55 degrees, where it starts adding time to your pace so that your pace that you should run is actually slower than what the equivalent pace would be if the temperature was cooler. So if we dive into that, the calculated pace was actually equivalent to running a 6:10 per mile with good race conditions. But again, you can't control race conditions, so that's something you have to definitely think about. So this puts my VDOT score at a 52.3. So what does that mean? Well, we'll go down to equivalent down here, and that puts me at a 1:28.03 half marathon and a 3:03.36 marathon. If I don't care about the temperature, then my VDOT score is only a 51.6. And so that is an equivalent of a 3:05.53 or 3:06 marathon and a 1:29.10 half marathon, which are 7:05 pace and 6:48 pace. This was going to be a pretty good predictor for whether I can run a sub 1:30 half marathon. And because this says that I should be able to run a 1:29.10, that's the time that I was going to aim for the Akron half marathon, which was about 4 weeks later. So one thing about this VDOT calculator and the VDOT score is that you can only increase your VDOT score 1 unit every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how your training's going, if you're doing training right, if you're recovering well. And so with this, it was kind of around that point that I started to have the decision that maybe sub 3 wasn't in the cards for this year, because a 6:52 was going to feel just a little bit too quick, and I didn't think I could hold on for that long. Like I said, I don't want to go in with hopes and dreams to this marathon. I want to go in with a solid plan, knowing that I can at least hit the goal time that I want, with like an A, B, and C goal, and the C goal being like what the calculator says I should be able to run, and an A goal like 5% faster or 2 to 3 minutes faster. So now going through this calculator and figuring out, okay, I'm 8 or so weeks out from the marathon. I could possibly increase my score by about 1.5, maybe 2 points. I'm going to go conservative and say 1 point. As the races get longer and you plug them in, it's a more accurate representation. So what I wanted to do was plug in just 1 point higher, which would be about a 52.5 to 52.7, somewhere like 7 minutes per mile, 6:59 pace, or just over a 3:03 marathon. Somewhere between 3:03 and 3:04 is what a 52.5 VDOT score predicts that I should be able to run. And then that would then be the C goal that I would walk away happy with, and then B and A goal would be maybe 30 seconds to a minute faster each one. So like A goal would be maybe a 3:01 or a 3:02, and that's what I'm going to be using in the future to lock in a solid race plan and know exactly what I'm capable of. And then if I can run faster, I run faster. But if I am only able to hit that, that's still going to be a massive PR from 3 hours, 22 minutes, and 51 seconds, about 8.5, 9 years ago. So I won. I only had one goal the whole time, was to go under 19. And the thing I kept thinking, and something that I've always done when I've raced, is just don't look back. And that's something that I want to start implementing in my life right now, is just don't look back. Because in a race, when you start looking back, that means you're thinking about the other people behind you, and you're not running your own race. You're not focusing on your own race. If you don't look back, then there's nothing really to compare to. You can only move forward. You can only get better. You can only move faster. And so that's kind of what this race symbolized for me. I know that this whole year I've been working toward going under 3 for the marathon, and I think it's important to realize that sometimes when you have a goal there's a difference between having an unrealistic goal and a goal that's just out of touch enough to where it forces you to push yourself. Time cap to when you do this goal. The reality of it is these freaking marathons are hard. There's no end to this. This isn't a means to an end. This is the journey. That's gonna be the end of this video. I will see you guys in the next video. We're switching gears and we're starting marathon training back up. Today was basically a jump start. I'll see you guys in the next video.